really do appreciate everyone tuning in. I thank you all being here. We're live and direct, live here at the Fulton County facility, the HJC Bowden facility. I am Mr. Ashford. We're here for our urban gardening, and I want to thank our wonderful team that we have, Mr. Lewis Dudley here and Janet Stockdale. Wonderful team members, wonderful people. I really do mean that. I'm not saying it because he's pointing a gun at me now, forcing me to say this. I'm saying it. He can put the gun down. I'm saying it because it's true. But really, we do have a really great team, and I really do appreciate that. I can stand here and they can make me look good, but it really is a team effort. So I want to thank all of my Fulton County cohorts and co-workers. Thank you for all that you do. It really is a team effort, and I really do mean that. And the great work that's going on at the other centers as well. I think it's a wonderful, wonderful job. I want to just give everyone kudos in this new situation that we're all in, forced to work in. I think people are doing a wonderful job, and I'm not just saying that to say it. I really do. I'm saying it because I really do feel that way. So I think we're going to have a wonderful session today, and I think we're going to cover some very interesting things that I think we all could use and learn from. So you see we have some things here on the table that we will talk about and we want to discuss. And I want to first kind of discuss things that's going to help our plants to grow, and these kind of like little hacks that's going to help us to get almost guaranteed success. So we know that there are people who have gardens at home and have done gardening for years, like Ms. Bradley. I know she's done gardening. She's very familiar with a lot of things regarding gardening. And that's what we want to do, have a wide variety of knowledge. And when we know people who have been involved in gardening, let's not be ashamed or afraid to ask questions and to share ideas. And so one thing I want to talk about, which I did not have here with me today, is the Alaskan fish oil. Okay, I'm not sure if you've ever heard of this or understand it from a standpoint of a fertilizer. Now, Alaskan fish oil, I just want to give you this I want to be totally honest with you. The Alaskan fish oil has a horrible smell. So when you purchase the Alaskan fish oil, you can get it from Home Depot carries it, and you may find it online as well. But Alaskan fish oil is amazing for like giving our plants. I mean, like, wow. I went to my friend's who gardened the other day. He's a gardener, a master gardener. He's been gardening for years. And I was wondering, man, how do you have red plump tomatoes already? You know, and he was showing me his Alaskan fish oil that they were speaking about, and it has a high rating amongst a lot of master gardeners. It's all organic, and it comes obviously from the decaying matter of Alaskan fish. And they just find that, particularly with tomatoes and a lot of vegetables that we can grow, it really helps the growth process, and it just shoots it up. So if you want to make a note of that, Alaskan fish oil. But I do want to give you that warning again that it does have a horrible smell. So I don't want you to come beat me up and say, hey, I used that Alaskan fish oil and just made my whole backyard. But I think that smell also could be a deterrent for other pests. Now, I haven't looked into that to see if that's an actual fact, but I think that could, sometimes that is actually how it works. And also it's something that really helps us to extend our growth and kind of helps the growth process to really happen faster than what people would kind of expect. And it really is going to be one of those things that makes your neighbors say, hey, what are you doing? Like, they're going to kind of spy on your garden to see what are you doing. But if we look here, we have our water bottle. And what I did earlier, I put 2 tablespoons of Epsom salt in this water bottle. So with Epsom salt, and what that is magnesium sulfate. Okay, so what that is we're giving our plant more and more, scientifically, we're giving it more ability to grow faster. So with the magnesium sulfate mixed with or it's another way of saying Epsom salt. That's the layman's term. But what we're using is hello, I like that. People are speaking. Okay, so what we're using is science to help our plants grow. It's the same thing that nitrogen does when we have our Miracle Grow. That's one of the main ingredients in here is nitrogen, and so it comes from naturally decomposing plants. So you're talking about anything like leaves, dead leaves in your garden. That's a really good thing because dead leaves, it's a dying organic material, and it's going to provide that nitrogen or nutrition for our plants. So let's make sure that we understand those things that we already talked about. Our water bottle that has the eggshells in it, Okay, our eggshells with that calcium is going to really help. All this is scientific, right? And then we have our water bottle that had the half hydrogen peroxide and half water. So we got H2O2. So we have that extra molecule of oxygen that's going to help our plants, and it also helps our plant to grow. But as we spoke about, the hydrogen peroxide and the water mixture also serves as a deterrent for pests, and it also keeps our plants nice and healthy. So it discourages disease and other things that could negatively affect the growth of our plants. The hydrogen peroxide and the water mixture discourages that. And also this mixture of water and we know our magnesium sulfate, that's going to really help our plant to just boost and just kind of grow up. It's kind of going to be like magic overnight. So earlier before we
what's the ratio on that, Kermit?
You can just for the Epsom salt or the magnesium sulfate, you just take 2 tablespoons with your water in this size of water bottle, and you should be just fine. 2 tablespoons with this size water bottle. It's something approximately about this size, and you'll be just fine. And it's going to help. You're going to see that growth. So that Alaskan fish oil and our magnesium sulfate in the form of Epsom salt. That's what that's our layman's term for that. And also, before we started filming, we had a wonderful conversation with Miss Wanda, a wonderful person, a wonderful student. I do appreciate all of you all, and I appreciate her sending me images all the time to get my opinion about things. I think that's I just feel lucky. And thank you so much for thinking highly of me that I would have some knowledge that I could share with you to help you. And I really would love to do that. Your picture looks very, very nice. But we spoke about earlier, she saw flowers on her tomato plants. And we were talking about how that is an excellent sign when it comes to our edibles, because there's an adage in growing: first the flower, then the fruit. So a lot of people will know that. And so when you see your flowers on your tomato plants, particularly after this great rain, so let's not fool ourselves. Plants really love rainwater, like the natural water that comes from nature, God, whatever you want to call it. They really receive that well, and they expect that. So if we can get rainwater, that's a wonderful advantage for our plants, and we'll see that our plants will take to rainwater a lot better than water that comes from the municipal source. I often laugh at this story. My friend, he's a master gardener, was sharing the story of how he put some water from the sink out for his dog, and his dog smelled the water and was like, man, the dog went back and started drinking from the muddy water after a rain. So that kind of is a hint to what could be in the natural municipal supply. And if you ever want to doubt that our water could have some chemicals, some undesirables in it, let's just say that, just take a clean glass, and take water from your faucet and let it sit out until the water totally evaporates. A couple of days, who knows? But tell me what you see in that glass, okay? So all that residue, that white fine powder and all those chemicals, that's what would have gone into your body. So that's one of those things that lets us know that sometimes the municipal water supply is not the best for our plants. And we will discuss rainwater, saving rainwater, and that's one of the things that we have, these rain catchers. I really do suggest that we could get one of those. That really will help to promote positive growth for our plants. And also, if we can't get the rainwater, distilled water is the next best water to mimic the natural process of rainwater. So distilled water represents water that happens naturally in nature. It's naturally occurring water. If we see anything like how we could say when condensation builds up on the outside of a container we left outside, and it's a hot day and it went through extreme temperatures, well, that condensation technically is distilled water, and it acts as it's water that contains no salt, and it is a naturally occurring water. So distilled water next to rainwater is like the best water for our plants. Miss Eloise, you want to chime in?
What about boiling water? Boiling your water, is that good or not?
Well, boiling your water, it could help to eliminate some of the elements in it. I have heard people speak about that. However, I personally have not done that and had any positive results. So I don't want to give out any information that I personally cannot verify or find to be true. But yes, I have heard people speaking about boiling their water, much like they do in the so-called boiled water advisory. If there are certain chemicals that is seeped into the municipal water supply, and they want us to boil our waters. But that is something that I can look into, Miss Eloise. Okay.
Kermit.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Kermit.
Yes.
What would have killed that? Not that one killed living creature, but the Alaskan fish oil, the eggshells, the peroxide. What would have helped me last year with that large green caterpillar on my tomatoes? What would have?
Okay. Well, I think I would lean more to the hydrogen peroxide, that mixture. But also, we must understand, let's not fool ourselves. We're growing things in nature. So in other words, we're taking our stuff to someone else's house, if you will. We're planting our food in the house where birds live, where squirrels live. We're planting our food in their house. And it's almost unrealistic. I'll just use that word. It's almost an unrealistic expectations not to have some sort of pest or some sort of birds, and that also leads me to one of the things that I want to talk about that we will get to. But yes, we do have to understand, like one of my gardener friends says, make sure you plant something for the insects and for the birds, because we are planting in their house, and it does make practical sense that, hey, if you saw some food left around in your house, you might tend to eat it. You know, you may not just leave it there and say, oh, it's not mine. So the same thing with insects. They're only trying to sustain themselves. They're doing what they're born to do. They eat this leaf. Yes.
So if you take them off and put them in another location,
that's just fine.
Okay, so take them to a long way away. And then your tomatoes are your tomatoes poison at that point, or can you continue?
Absolutely not. They are not poison. No, they are not. They are not poison. That's an interesting question, but no, they're not. I assure you, you'll be just fine. And that is an interesting thing when you speak about, when you find that you do have a pest in your garden. Like a few years ago, I noticed that there was something eating away at some of the weeds that were growing in my garden. I started off like I always do. I like to weed my garden by hand. I'll just go out there and just any undesirable, anything I don't want growing in the garden, just pull it up. However, when I started to notice that the pests were eating the weeds and not the vegetables, and I said, well, I'm going to allow these weeds to continue to grow in the garden so they can feed on the weeds and not the vegetables. So it's kind of one of those things in each backyard, even if you're right next door to each other, I noticed that each yard will offer a different challenge sometimes, okay? So,
I have a question.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
If you buy a tomato plant that's already in a pot and it has the cage all around it already, do I need to repot that tomato plant? Because I don't have room to plant outside yet. And so what do I need to do?
Okay.
Do I repot that?
You sure can. It's always good to see you, Ms. Martin. Absolutely, you sure can. And if you do repot it with the understanding that it's going to be growing. And what we need to know about the rooting system of plants as well as trees, there's going to be almost always 2 times of the growth system going beneath the soil than what we see coming up. So a tomato plant this tall is going to need some rooting system. So let's make sure when you do replant it into a larger pot, slightly larger, so that the roots can grow and expand it. Okay?
I want to show you what I did.
Okay.
You were talking about regrowing the celery.
Yes.
But I did my lettuce.
Beautiful. That is wonderful.
But it didn't root. But I was so surprised how fast it grew. It's tiny, but I'm going to eat it.
Absolutely, and I think that is such a wonderful idea and showing us. And I really thank you for showing that, Ms. Martin, because that exemplifies the importance of growing and what we're talking about. Because I can't stress enough how there could be food shortages coming. I'm not trying to be fear-mongering or anything like that. I'm only speaking the truth about when you keep hearing about food plants closing down and farmers they're being asked to destroy food, then what are we going to be eating? I mean, we have a planet with billions of people on it, and people have to be, we have to sustain ourselves. So we want to make sure that we're growing things and understand the importance of growing things. So just like Ms. Martin showed, albeit a small piece of lettuce, if we were in some sort of crisis time, which some people would argue it is, we are in a crisis now. If you have to sustain yourself, that little bit of green could help to sustain you for a little bit longer, and let alone if you do several more of those. So that is a wonderful example of an error, like trying certain things. There are times where I would try to grow something in this spot, in another spot, just to see what is the best process. You understand what I'm saying? So definitely, there are definitely many things that we want to keep in mind.
I have a question.
Yes,
I'm ready
Ms. Wanda.
to plant my green peppers.
Okay.
So that tray that you've got behind you, can I put a seed in each one of those squares?
Absolutely, you sure can.
Okay.
You sure can, and it's gonna come up. You're gonna take about 7 to 14 days for the germination when you start to see it come out. Those cotyledons, and it's gonna be wonderful. And then let's make sure that we understand that seeds like warmer temperatures. So we were having some kind of unseasonably weather where it get cool sometimes. So let's just know right about 65 degrees is probably the lowest kind of that they tend to like. We kind of want to keep it sort of warm. So a lot of times with people starting seed trays, they also purchase warming trays, what they call warming trays. So they actually keep the seeds on a warming tray, and they can control the temperature to where it's basically like you're tricking the seed to believe that you're in a different environment, so that it encourages it to grow. Okay?
Okay.
All right.
Wow.
So yes, so our eggplants, wonderful. It's the same way with our all these summer vegetables. They really love sunlight, and they love to be watered in the evening, in the cool of the evening or the cool of the morning time. I prefer to water in the evening. But again, all this great rain, they love the great rain. If you can save rainwater, by all means, use your rainwater. Are there any questions any other questions that I can entertain at this moment?
Yes, I have a question. What kind
Yes,
of
Ms. Martin.
fertilizer should I use for my tomatoes?
I would suggest that Alaskan fish oil. I mean, from what I
Say
saw,
that again.
Alaskan fish oil fertilizer. And you can purchase that, Ms. Martin, from Home Depot. And it will make
Now,
That's a question.
Yeah. Oh, all right. Yes.
Do I use regular potting soil?
You sure can. You sure can.
Okay, thank you.
And now they do have some potting soil that specifically is for vegetables, because they will put the nutrients in it. So I do suggest, if you can get a potting soil that's made for vegetables, to do so. But I've learned that, hey, if you don't, sometimes when I'm working with what I have, I've used an error, like trying certain things. There are times where I would try to grow something in this spot, in another spot, just to see what is the best process. You understand what I'm saying? So definitely, there are definitely many things that we want to keep in mind.
I have a question.
Yes,
I'm ready
Ms. Wanda.
to plant my green peppers.
Okay.
So that tray that you've got behind you, can I put a seed in each one of those squares?
Absolutely, you sure can.
Okay.
You sure can, and it's gonna come up. You're gonna take about 7 to 14 days for the germination when you start to see it come out. Those cotyledons, and it's gonna be wonderful. And then let's make sure that we understand that seeds like warmer temperatures. So we were having some kind of unseasonably weather where it get cool sometimes. So let's just know right about 65 degrees is probably the lowest kind of that they tend to like. We kind of want to keep it sort of warm. So a lot of times with people starting seed trays, they also purchase warming trays, what they call warming trays. So they actually keep the seeds on a warming tray, and they can control the temperature to where it's basically like you're tricking the seed to believe that you're in a different environment, so that it encourages it to grow. Okay?
Okay.
All right.
Wow.
So yes, so our eggplants, wonderful. It's the same way with our all these summer vegetables. They really love sunlight, and they love to be watered in the evening, in the cool of the evening or the cool of the morning time. I prefer to water in the evening. But again, all this great rain, they love the great rain. If you can save rainwater, by all means, use your rainwater. Are there any questions any other questions that I can entertain at this moment?
Yes, I have a question. What kind
Yes, Ms.
of
Martin.
fertilizer should I use for my tomatoes?
I would suggest that Alaskan fish oil. I mean, from what I
Say
saw,
that again.
Alaskan fish oil fertilizer. And you can purchase that, Miss Martin, from Home Depot. And it will make.
Now, now the question was,
Yeah. Oh, all right. Yes.
Do I use regular potting soil?
You sure can. You sure can.
Okay, thank you.
And now they do have some potting soil that specifically is for vegetables because they will put the nutrients in it. So I do suggest if you can get a potting soil that's made for vegetables to do so. But I've learned that hey, if you don't, sometimes when I'm working with what I have, I've used soil that was made for different things, and it still turned out okay.
Okay.
And there was another question.
yes, when the seeds start to root, come up, sprout, and you want to take them from that small container to a larger container, is that when you can put the hair in and the eggshells and all what?
You sure can. You sure can. And even, in fact, I would even suggest while it's at a seed to water. I would water with the water bottle with the eggshells and spray that so that calcium in that water is going to encourage the growth process to come right on up, and you'll find it to grow a lot faster if you use your eggshells and these other, like your Alaskan fish oil. I mean, wow. Like when I saw red tomatoes yesterday, I was like, wow, this is amazing. And another quick,
good too, right?
yes. Another quick point I wanted to make. What I have here is some crystallized rocks. And when I say crystallized rocks, you see all types of rocks from the river, rocks that look smooth. Now, crystallized rocks almost kind of like they have crystalline structure. They're normally white sort of rocks, if you can kind of see these. But I noticed just from some project I was working on in the past, I sat a few rocks on top, just like so, and I'll show you. I sat a few rocks on the soil, on top of my soil, just like so.
Okay.
And when we water, what the crystalline is I can't explain the science of it. I haven't done the research to know the science of it. All I know is that the ones with the rocks grow faster and stronger, and the ones without the crystalline rocks just grow at what we'll call a normal rate. So I wish I could explain the science behind that, but hey, once I find out something works, I tend to go with what works and not what someone told me.
Where did I get the rocks from?
They do sell rocks at your Home Depot, sell rocks, but I would look for crystalline rocks that have white rocks that have sort of like a crystalline sort of look. Those rocks I found really work better. And when you water, I place them right by the root where the water would hit the rooting system. Make sure that the water goes over the rocks. In fact, in nature, sometimes to have alkaline water that is pH balanced with a proper pH balance that's right in a high level. What happens to make water alkaline in nature often is that it runs over a rock, and it's like an aquifer that makes it alkaline. Okay.
Can you say the old soil when you repot plants?
I would not, because old soil could have disease, could have, so soil is everything. Soil quality is soil, and it's everything. So I would definitely make sure we have high quality soil, and make sure that if you did use this soil, you don't want to use it again. This is why sometimes the farmers let their field go fallow and they kind of burn their field. It's kind of like regenerating the soil so that it doesn't get worn out and overused, so to speak. So planting different things in different areas, that also helps as well. Okay. Well, we are drawing nigh to the end of the time, and again, I do thank everyone for being here. I really appreciate you all's attention and the questions and just the interest in what we're doing, because this is very important, and we are at an important time in the world stage. Things are very serious at this time, and those of us who know how to grow food will be in a position to feed ourselves and to feed our families. And it's like being wealthy. It's like another type of wealth. So if we can become wealthy with knowledge that we can actually put to use, then I don't see why we wouldn't do it. But I want to thank you all for being here, to encourage you all to continue growing and to learn more about growing, because we're going to be needing this knowledge. All right.
Absolutely.
Thank
yes.
you all
Thank
so
you,
much. I
Kermit.
want y'all to have a
Thank
wonderful
you.
weekend. I want everyone to stay
Thank
safe.
you.
Thank you all so
Bye-bye.
much. Thank you so
Take
much.
care.
All right. Thank you very
Bye.
much.
Okay.
Bye bye.
See you later.
Hi, Larita.
Hi there.
How's the
Good to see you.
Good to see everybody.
Yeah.
All right. Bye-bye, everybody. Have a good
Bye.
weekend.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.